Well, it's 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Convene as the Walworth County Planning and Zoning Board. Is there any new business or any old business? Any new business?
Hearing none for adjournment.
Moved by Commissioner Holgard. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. Any further discussion?
Kane was keen, second.
Okay.
Sorry, I mumbled.
Second by Commissioner Kane. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Convene as the Walworth County Board of Zoning Adjustment. Is there any old business? Any new business?
Hearing none, I move for adjournment.
Moved by Commissioner Holgard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. We'll convene as the Board of County Commissioners. Approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adjust the agenda to add item at the end of section number 20. Would be pertaining to resolution 21-06 pertaining to weight limits.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Made by Commissioner Schilling. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Public forum.
I don't see anybody on the list.
Consider motion to approve the county commissioner minutes of January 21st, 2021. Have you all had a chance to look at them?
I so move.
Moved by Commissioner Moore.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Motion to approve claims as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Kane. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Entertain a motion to go into executive session for SDCL 1-25-2 regarding a personnel matter.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Holgard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kane. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. In order, we come out of executive session at 10:02. We'll skip number 17. Go to number 18, consider motion to adopt resolution 2021-05 County Rangeland Fire Protection Agreement.
I haven't seen a copy of that resolution.
I emailed it to you.
Why, Marcy gave me one, someplace.
I put one up there. I can make copies of it if you all want it.
Well, I don't know what I've done with it.
It's right here.
I'm not good at keeping papers.
Does everybody want a copy of it?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And Jeff called Kurt and he said yes.
Okay, thank you.
You got a bid letting at 10 o'clock for that surplus grader? We're bringing that to your attention.
It's scheduled for 10, maybe we should.
Should we jump down to that and do
Yeah.
the reason? Let's go to number 20,
consider, open the bid at 10, or the motor grader, wherever it is. Bid opening the surplus grader.
I guess I think you should do all of Gary's so he can get back to work. I know he's ready to go.
There's a lot of crap to do, so I just brought that 10 o'clock bid letting thing up to your attention. There should be.
Yeah, since it's scheduled, it was scheduled, let's move for that.
Yeah.
Any bids
We're
on
gonna
that
switch
grader, Becky?
and open our bid deal, Becky.
Okay.
I'm just popping in and waiting my turn. I had a bid letting at 10 o'clock for a surplus road grader, 140M grader that, and according to Becky, we have no bids for it. Whereby it's my recommendation to the board that you do a motion to sell the unit to Butler Equipment at the buyback value of $150,000.
I will make the motion to accept the buyback for $150,000.
Moved by Commissioner Hogard, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. More discussion?
Technically, there are no bids, so you're pursuing the option of the contract. When it was purchased, there was a guaranteed buyback of $150,000 that was always there. It's a contractual deal. Since there's no bids, your motion said accept the bid of 150.
No, accept the buyback.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to clarify that, so.
Accept the buyback. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Well, just a minute here, I'm thinking. We have on our agenda a bid opening. We don't have bid openings. We don't have our agenda to enter into the buyback contract.
There were no bids. So that makes available the buyback option, in my opinion.
It does, but it's not on our agenda.
When's that option closed? We gotta get that done because
February 27th or $7,500 in that unit has been in shutdown mode, so we don't go over 7,500.
So what's it gonna do with either option if we wait till our next meeting to get that?
If the day expires February, don't hold me to it, but I think the date is February 27th. The buyback option expires after that specific date, or if it goes over 7,500 hours, which we held it from going over 7,500 hours. So the buyback option on, like I said, don't hold me to it, February 27th, we don't get the buyback anymore by virtue of the contract.
Our next meeting?
February 18th.
Right? Yeah.
So we see okay.
if that's the right date.
If that's the right date, because that would be a disaster.
Yeah, that would be really bad if we,
I guess I just assumed,
could you possibly
If we were
check when
gonna-
that date is real quick and let us know?
So did I just figured it was all in the same thing there.
I just assumed if we could accept a bid, we could accept the buyback.
Yeah, here again, the way I look at it, in the advertisement, there was a minimum bid of $150,000. That anybody providing a bid for that unit had to exceed $150,000. If not, we were going back to the $150,000 guaranteed buyback. And that's a contractual, it's in the purchase agreement that after, not to exceed 7,500 or June, whatever the date was, this buyback option is viable. So the way I'm looking at it again is that we have no active bidders that are willing to pay $150,000 in excess of. It could be $150,001. if you catch where I'm coming from. So there were no bidders, which means no activity in pursuit of purchase, other than the contract term that is guaranteed from Butler Equipment that at the end of the duration, we will provide you $150,000.
You got a motion and a second, right?
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
motion carried.
And in follow-up to the new county commissioners, that's the last grader unit that we have out of 5 that has a contractual buyback number in the contract. From here on, we're at liberty to, if we choose to surplus, we're at liberty of what the bidders will provide in a value. So,
Gary, have you got a new one coming, or do you have that one already?
the next one due would be the one in Java. That's at 6,500 hours, the warranty expires at 7,500. The date thing, I think it's 2022, but that one we have to monitor again that we don't go over 7,500. When we get close to 7,500, then it comes to the board to determine that you want to purchase an extended warranty, go without a warranty, or surplus it and get the value that it would be worth. So, and in regards to buying one, we've been kind of talking in the shop that I think Les is probably going to get close to 7,500, and I'm thinking that would be in the August-September timeframe, to where we monitor the options and go from there. So.
Scott? I just got one question, Gary. Will, after Butler changed this, will they ever offer just say you're gonna buy a new grader this year, will they ever trade yours in, or don't they even do that?
Not to my knowledge.
That's what I was wondering. I guess I've never heard that while I've been here, and I was just wondering if they do that or don't they do that?
It could be considered, when the time comes. Right now, no, I was gonna make a comment, but it's related to the vendors, and I'm not really at liberty to.
You answered my question.
Do we want to just go ahead and go through Gary's stuff so we can,
yeah.
let's just
I
do
think
that.
that's
Hopefully it won't take. Consider entering a master service agreement with KLJ.
My comment on that is that I read their initial master agreement, which was 65 pages, plus their task agreement. That was 20 pages for a $10,000 general consulting job. And what I understand Gary wants is to be able to consult with KLJ on minor type issues, no, not major construction, but if there's a road slide or something on how to repair things. I read through the contract, which took way more time than it should have. Found a couple of issues that, in just the initial cursory review, that they indicated that we had to obtain liability insurance and name them as a named insured for every part of a task that they perform. Insurance nightmare. As I understand it, they've come back with a new contract, a 64-page contract that got rid of that. The original contract also provided that their liability would be limited to $100,000. Their 64-page contract now goes back and says their liability would be limited to the extent of their errors and omissions insurance, which is $1 million, and then they got some umbrella things that will take it up to $4 million. I have a problem with limiting liability for a professional who is providing expert opinions to us. If they screw up to the tune of $10 million, they should pay $10 million. they screw up the tune of 25,000, they pay 25,000. There shouldn't be a liability because that's what we're paying an expert for. The other side of it is to comprehend the terms and conditions and what you're getting into with a 64-page, 12-point pitch contract for a $10,000 general consulting job, in my opinion, is ridiculous because we don't understand. I'm a lawyer and I don't understand. You have to refer to a paragraph here that refers you to a paragraph here, which refers to a paragraph here, and to a paragraph here to try to understand this paragraph here. It would take me at least a week to try to figure out what their contract meant. I've told Gary that he can go back to them and say if they want to come in with a general couple-page contract that says they'll provide consulting services, this is our schedule of fees, and if they agree to what he requests, we'll pay them. You know, there are going to be a few more things in there than that, but something that we can understand, something that everybody can understand and try to read it. So I am opposed to entering into their proposed contracts. I like Todd Goldsmith, don't get me wrong, I think he's a good engineer, I like it, I just don't like their contract.
Is that gonna get us the same thing with that culvert issue from how many years ago that we're still sitting on because this one's not this one's liability, it's this one's liability, and nobody's fessed up to it yet, and that's been 6 years ago.
Probably 7.
Going on 10.
One down south of the Cascade.
That's what I heard, going on 10 years.
It happened in 2014.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, it is going on 10, just be a few years yet.
Just a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess my question to you, Gary, would be how many projects do you think you're gonna have throughout the year that you're gonna need KLJ as far as a consultant?
the intent, and if I didn't clarify it when I first brought it up, the intent was to have the ability to have an engineering staff or engineering firm on staff to pose design questions, the basic principles. That's why the $10,000 budget per se was established, that they will provide this. If there was a situation where I'd want somebody other than me to put plans together for, in theory, 14 miles of chip sealing this year, then the engineering staff, they wouldn't be using that $10,000 budget. That would be a site-specific situation where they draft the plans, they go through the advertisement for bids. It's all included in the scope of work, which would then be part of the pay scale thing that was in this original contract.
That's on top of it.
On top, the $10,000 budget wouldn't be spent. It would be recognized. The cost proposal would come from them to put together plans and specs for asphalt surface treatment, and that would come with a price tag of the included values. So I'm pretty much on board with Rick, and our conversations have been that I survived all those other years and the years come back without having an engineering firm, but I do make periodic phone calls, and it's been a luxury that I've had people on board that I can ask them a question. They've been giving comments with no monetary expenditures, but this would basically clear the mud. If I call you and or a representative and want to look at the condition of 14 miles of asphalt roads, get a recommendation that now is the time to do it. That's the principle, the way it was drafted. I've had a couple phone calls this morning. I'm on board with Rick that what do you need? I think it was 80 for it. She just printed it off this morning. Irregardless, there's a lot of pages in there that makes it really difficult. However, it's sad that we're in a situation where everybody is worried about involvements and lawsuits. And that brings about 84 pages. So I will be working, my recommendation, you've already voiced your objection. My recommendation to the board is that let me table this action and let me go back to the table and see if we can come up with a simplified conversation this morning that for engineering firms to be retained under this state DOT, they have a registry of engineering firms that they recognize and make that available to the local government entities, whether it's city or counties or whatever. Maybe it's a simple motion down the road that we select an engineering firm under the state retainer agreement, and one would assume this 84-page document would be on file with the state. And you follow where I'm coming from?
I do, I sure want to see it,
Yeah.
what we're agreeing to, because based upon what I saw with their initial stuff, if I don't read what they're sliding in on us, I don't trust it. I mean, the $100,000 liability limit is what they were trying to stick us with. I mean, that's ridiculous in today's market.
I agree with Rick on the first time that they should have something very simplified. That's what I think. I think if they want it, they'll do it.
I provide legal services on a contract basis to the city of Old Bridge. I have a simplified one-page contract that says I'll provide legal services and this is how much I'll be paid. The rest of it, you set by case law and contract law. And I got my errors and omissions to cover me if I screw up. I mean, it doesn't have to be that simple. I mean, there's other issues that need to be dealt with, but that's the concept. I mean, we sign a contract we don't understand is ridiculous. That's just plain trouble.
But if we do it on a case-by-case basis, we're still about the same money anyway, are we?
Yeah, but don't you think if Gary's wanting that, so he doesn't have to come to us for a meeting and say, I want to do this?
Yeah, he might want that tomorrow, and
Right.
we're not gonna meet until the 18th.
Yeah, I like the concept. I
I do
think it's a
too.
great idea, but it's just their contract I don't like.
Right.
I would suggest Gary go back and talk to him and see what we can come up with.
Just give him 2 pieces of paper and tell him that here's your thought.
Just, well, like I commented, it's sad that society is getting to the point where everybody's concerned about litigation against. In conversation this morning with KLJ, they indicated that there's been situations where a 3-minute comment to another entity has cost them hundreds of $1,000s because of legal issues involved on their perspective, their interpretation of this. So it's pretty sad. I'm supporting tabling this thing for further review, or you guys have the option of saying, no, we're not going to end it right now. So
I'll move that we table it and allow you to renegotiate contract with them.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Kane and second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion on tabling the KLJ agreement? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Consider funding agreement with Game Fish and Parks for participation in chip sealing Swan Creek Road and 1 mile of Indian Creek Road.
I should add copies. Those are the 2 original documents.
Oh, okay.
If one of you would hold that just to verify my numbers, Under that agreement, the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks will provide on an 8.3 mile asphalt surface treatment project from Acasco West to the Swan Creek Boat Dock. That agreement for that section indicates that they will provide up to $300,000 of participation funds. And that $300,000 is based on a 80-20 type situation. Does that say that in there towards the bottom?
So I got 250 up here, but then down here it's 187.5.
Let me see that, Kevin, I should have. Under Article A, the county will pay 25% of the total cost based on the estimate of $250,000, and that's the Swan Creek section. So they're providing 75% of the project cost.
That's 187.
Not to exceed
250,000.
$187,500 on that project. And the Indian Creek, that one is the same agreement. So it's my recommendation that you guys enter into that agreement.
Did you want to look at that, Rick?
I apologize.
You can understand it a whole lot quicker than I can.
That's the one for Swan Creek, that's the Indian Creek.
Oh,
Okay,
They're two different ones.
okay.
I couldn't find the numbers in there when you was talking.
How long ago was it that Swan Creek was just chip sealed there?
There was an asphalt
Oh, that was
overlay
the overlay.
3 years ago.
So now we're just gonna chip seal.
And they
over that.
highly recommended that we chip seal it that year, and Penny didn't have it in her budget.
And we probably could have chip sealed it last year, but we were right up against the wall on the available funds, so this year it's a definite thing that it's getting chip sealed.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer if they pay 75%.
I so move that we enter into agreement with Game Fish and Parks.
Moved by Commissioner Moore.
For both projects,
We're gonna have
Swan
to do
Creek
one at a
and
time.
Indian Creek?
We'll go with project.
Probably have to do one at a time, I would think.
And it would be nice to kind of attach that project number. I think there's a project number
We'll
for the agreement number.
separate motions that way, yep.
Okay.
Just for clarification, it'd be a lot easier to split it up into two different motions.
Okay. I'll make a motion to enter an agreement with project 202163-2 with Game Fish and Parks to chip seal. This one here is Indian Creek. I think.
Indian Creek Road, yeah. Moved by Commissioner Moore, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. Any further discussion? Becky?
You said that they pay 75, we pay 25? Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a not to exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed value.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Now I would entertain a
It's here.
motion to do Swan Creek Road. Right.
This is Swan Creek.
Entertain a motion
Somebody needs that number.
for agreement 2021-63-1 for the Swan Creek Road.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
No second.
Second by Commissioner Hogard. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Next item, follow-up conversation regarding county construction requested for residential development near Lake Hiddenwood. Deb, you got a new plat?
I just, here. Gary
Can you
hasn't
make
seen
copies
it.
of it,
I
please?
can.
This was an old, the first plot that came in on that.
You had a question about something?
Is anything standing out?
Emergency management secretary.
The 33 feet of right-of-way thing really kind of threw a red flag up to me that you don't plat 33 feet of right-of-way. You just recognize whether the right-of-way exists. You see that line? The way that was drafted, in my opinion, the right-of-way was incorporated into the plat. But, and that's where we're kind of at, is that you don't plat public right-of-way if the right-of-way exists. So Rose Engineering put that together, and I consulted with them and told them that you don't plat statutory right-of-way. And the issue of whether Deb has been looking at, can you report on whether the right-of-way has been vacated there?
On this one, it looks like he's allowed for the right-of-way, and then carried it out another 33 feet to the west. And I'm still not sure about this plot, because my understanding when I talked to Skip was that he wants, I think what him and Gary originally talked about was a little over 1,700 feet of road. Well, you can see where this plot jogs out here. That's for it to go around the slough. And Gary's thinking was then they go around the slough and come back to the section line. When Skip talked, he talked about you go around the slough and then he wants to come up here. And so that takes, you know, the county road part way out of our whatever. Then he also said to me, I said, if you leave this on this plot, you know, you leave this 66 feet or whatever on this plot, and then you deed this plot over to your nephew, he's gonna own that. You know, and that's not what he wants either, so. I don't know if we need to turn this into 2 different plots. I don't know if we need, yeah, go ahead.
I thought that the intention is that the road was going to go down the section line until you had to jog to the west to get around the slough, but it looks from this plat that they're platting, or is that the, it looks like here, this is the center of the section.
Probably here. Like the creek comes.
Right, but is this the section line right here, and then center of the section line, and then the 33 feet?
Dotted line would be.
The 33 feet.
The 33-foot boundary,
On the
so.
west side. of
So
the
my
section.
understanding was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that we were going to go along the section line as much as possible, because that's where the road should be. This plat shows 33 feet, and we have 33 feet on each side. 66 feet would be the normal width of the section line road, correct?
Right.
And so,
Statutory side.
yep, and so my understanding is that it's not been vacated. So realistically, until there's a jog to go around the slough, the road should go right along the section line in that 66-foot right-of-way, and then jog to whatever direction, and then continue on how you have negotiated with the landowner to, because honestly, if we put in this road off the section line like it looks like it's been drawn, that's a private road.
I don't think I think what he's trying to allow for is room for Gary to work on his side of the section line. I'm not sure why, but that's what I think he's trying to do.
You're talking about,
It's,
this is gonna be the road?
Well, this is the 33 feet on this side of the section. I think Skip's just trying to allow another 33 feet in case Gary needs it.
It was my understanding, I thought we were gonna build a road if we do
The
this,
road should
until it
actually
veered
be
off the
right
section
here on
line,
the
and then
section
they would
Right.
take it from there, right?
But he can't
1,700
make it
feet
right through
is
sluice.
basically what my understanding is that the county's responsibility that they were gonna assume. So the plat is a little confusing. But, because I really just don't know what that line that runs to the west really is indicating. Because my understanding is we would run the 1,700 feet right in that section line road that's already there.
You can,
It's,
Does that make sense, Deb, or not?
well, it does, but it's,
Because how far is that slough down where the jog is, where he's intending on making that jog? And maybe it's just an outline of what he's planning on doing along that section
here
line.
comes the creek. And the slough goes out here and then kind of continues, as you see, all the way up here. Right up on here, which is kind of a knoll, that's where the house intends to be. So his idea is you come out and come around the slough, but then I'm not quite sure if Skip wants to take it over from here or if he wants us to come all the way over to where they want the driveway. So nothing's completely clear.
Clear as mud, so we should probably,
Do we even want to work on a road or maintain a road that's outside of the section line? No.
I'll explain the process that I would pursue. It's extremely critical, and I know Deb's office and the Register of Deeds office has been researching whether that public right-of-way exists. Number one, that's the key factor. If the right-of-way has been abandoned or vacated and deeded back to the landowners, that would negate public right-of-way. If that would be the case, it's illegal for us to expend funds outside. It would turn us into a private contractor constructing a private road. If you get your fingers around that. The plat, in my opinion, and I explained this to the firm that did the plat, you guys are referencing 33 feet. Is that already public right away? Or why would it be on the plat if there was 66 foot right away there? The plat should recognize from the intersection on the south there, should recognize that there is a section line going north, and that would put us in a position where we can provide the service. That's the key factor. Does the section line exist? If the section line exists, then the design operations are that, well, we can't go through, the creek is in the section line. So the design factor would be lay it out so the road avoids, goes around the creek, and that would be by permanent easement. That would be the process that would be handled. The owner, likely in this case, would be Skip Rao. You give them the form, a voluntary grant under a permanent easement, X amount of acres as laid out in this for the purpose of this road construction. That's how the process should be handled. Under wherever the point is chosen for the private road part, I lost my train of thought.
I think I figured it out, Gary. If I can go ahead. Basically, I think he's laying out that plat, the westerly points on the south part. I think he's platting all of that and then including all of that runs along the north-south section line road. So realistically, the plat is okay. We just need to make sure how far down we're gonna go until there's a jog out, and then get the easement from Skip to construct around on the section line. Is that,
Technically not.
okay, never mind then.
My opinion would be this point moves over
Correct,
to the original. This stuff is abandoned, not even considered on the plat.
correct,
The road design goes like this and comes back out of it.
correct,
This area where we're encroaching outside of public right of way would be laid out with a permanent easement.
correct. We would stay along that section line as much as possible, except for making the allowance for the slough that crosses over the section line. That's what you're,
Yes.
okay.
I got a question, Jim. Well, you're still trying to figure out if that section line is closed or not, correct?
I'm up to like 1962, so
Well-
far it's not.
Well, what I'm getting at is if, and let's say that it would be closed, wouldn't there be an easement in there? Because Webb, we know Webb goes down there, so there'd be an easement there. So apparently,
I don't know that Webb goes on that section.
yes, it does.
So I don't know that.
Oh, it does.
And so who did Webb get their easement from?
That's what I'm getting at. But
I would
apparently-
assume it's still a county road.
I
We just
think-
need to
It should
verify
show
that.
something
My
there because-
understanding from talking to Skip is that the north half of that has been closed. But
He doesn't think the south has.
no,
I
but
mean,
I
yeah,
haven't found
Webb
either
goes
one
down
of
there.
them at this point.
Which is a legal question. In my books, closed is a temporary. Vacate or abandon, that's permanent. Once you abandon public right of way, you don't go back and get it.
Correct.
So it's really critical. And I put some pressure on the people who put that plat together that, hey, have you guys done your due diligence in determining does that section line exist? And Deb and I are talking, and now I'm devil's advocate here, but it's like, is it the obligation of the Register of Deeds and the county assessor to review documents to determine if right-of-way exists? And I'm gonna go over the edge and say anybody providing a plat for approval from the county commission, that's their primary task is that, does right-of-way exist? And that's the only thing that's holding me back right now is if somebody would email me and say on the legal side, not picking on you, Jamie, but if somebody provides me a document that says the public right-of-way exists, then I'm comfortable with starting the design factor. And I'm not gonna be subject to spending, what did I say, 20,000, 25,000 on something and be criticized down the road that, thanks for constructing a private roadway. And all of the stuff that comes with it. Now you rush to get.
I think the landowner and or whoever is working for him should also provide that because neither Casey or I or Gary, none of us are qualified to give. I mean, we can look it up and I don't have any problem helping Gary, but we cannot give a legal determination on that. We don't have those qualifications to do that at all.
Well, that should be our next step, shouldn't it, to find out. We can't go any further until we find out whether it's closed or whether it's vacated.
Our step or their step.
And internally, it's been ongoing, that those guys
We're looking for,
have been looking for it. The registered deeds, there's no record that said, the right-of-way doesn't exist. But it's that final factor that, okay, is everybody confident that the public right-of-way on the section line does exist? And then we proceed forward.
Yeah.
I just found a closed section line this morning that's not that was closed in 1960 that's not recorded in there.
Is this another plat right here?
No,
And
that's
is this
just,
another plat here?
no, those are just ASCS, FHA, or FSA fields, the outline of, I suppose, where these.
Just for the new county commissioners, Sarasoo Development, pretty much identical of what we're dealing with. They asked if the county would provide a new road to the development, and when you visit on site, there's a fence on the south side, but the farming activity went right to the fence line. So a red flag kind of comes up that, geez, does right away even exist? If I remember right, the state's attorney then informed me that it's the obligation of the requesting party to verify whether the right-of-way exists. And trying to go on memory, but the individual providing the plat and the master detail for the development, I had to pay for $6,000 to have an attorney staff come in and review the record. He wasn't very happy, but so in a case, Ben Lamont by Barry Conals, another case where they wanted to put a house out there. Okay, now you have to verify, you have to prove to us that the section line exists. I think individually he came up and went through all the records, and it was his word on completion and finality that there's no records that said the section line's been abandoned. So the precedence has been there for the stand that we're taking. So
I mean, I feel comfortable in helping Gary, trying to see if we can find something, but I don't feel at all comfortable in coming here or saying to Skip, it's either open or closed, either way.
Where do we go from here?
I think your review is coming close, right?
It was coming a lot closer, a little faster before tax notices went out, but I'm still working on it.
Well, I guess I'm still got that in my head right now. I mean, let's say if it was a county, if it's a section line, Webb had to have got an easement then. Wouldn't it show somewhere that they got an easement for that?
I'll ask Stacy to double check that, but I think she looked if it was ever closed. I'll have her check specifically for some easements along that section line.
I mean, to me, wouldn't the easement, I mean, if they got it, then it would say the county.
Depend on who gave them the easement.
I mean, there's no question, I mean, that the Webb's there, I mean, where I would call the section line, right there sets a Webb valve.
There still can be an issue because Webb could have relied upon it being there because there's no record that it's been vacated in the Register of Deeds office, so they assumed that it was a county and a general easement and built. The assumption may be an error.
Oh, that it fell under the general easement.
The blanket easement,
Yeah. So, I mean,
But I'll double check for sure.
all sorts of things are done in error. What you're trying to determine is to make sure there's no error.
am I wrong by saying terminology is critical?
Yeah.
Verbal is closed. And, okay, closed for what reason? For a reason? Permanently closed? Temporarily closed? And then you get to that vacate and abandonment? And,
I don't agree with that. I don't think, I've never seen, and I've vacated lots of section lines and lots of streets and lots of alleys over 40 years. I've never seen a distinction in the law between it being closed and vacated. Vacated. That's what I've
Does
seen.
abandon hold a different connotation?
Pardon me?
Does the word abandon hold a different connotation than either that or closed, vacated
No.
or closed?
And abandon's a non-legal term. Vacated is the legal term. That's the only thing I've ever seen. You vacate a street or an alley or a section line or a highway. It's called vacated. And that's what's in the law. And there's a procedure depending upon if it's been opened or it hasn't been opened and stuff, but it's always called vacated. And the end result is half goes to this guy and half goes to this guy.
And in that case, wouldn't, I'm in a half mile, I think there's 2 acres of right of way. I believe 66.
Times, like 26.
I think there's 2 acres encompassed in a half mile that is public right of way. So in the case of vacating, we're not gonna say abandon, we're gonna say vacate, wouldn't that right of way then be deeded back to the adjacent landowners and some kind of a record in the courthouse?
It doesn't, it's not deeded back. By operation of law, it becomes owned. Up to the center line, it becomes owned by this guy, owned by this guy, up to the center line by operation of law. There's no deed. But there is a resolution that's recorded with the Register of Deeds office that says that this section line or this street has been abandoned, has been vacated. When that resolution is passed, then this guy automatically owns half, this guy owns up to the, they each own up to the center.
It's a little bit different than something in town because they're assessed for 160 acres on every section anyway, so that wouldn't change, it wouldn't give them 161 acres. In town, it's a little bit different because if you abandon a 20-foot alley, each person gains 10 more feet, either of front footage or of depth. So then it's a little bit different story, but it wouldn't, it means that they can farm right up to the section line and you can't drive over it. If it's in the country, it doesn't change their acreage at all.
And technically, they can drive, they can still farm up to the center, but you can drive over it.
Right, right.
And they've done that at Pure to keep the hunting rates open.
So the bottom line is that, I don't want to hold this thing up or be stubborn about it, but I need some kind of an email or something that says the right-of-way exists. So if I've got a right-of-way, then I follow up on the design and move forward, so.
Some legal opinion, right, from somebody.
And I know this individual has an attorney hired, and I would hope the attorneys come together and take responsibility for what can and can't be done, to be handed down and the way we go, so.
Just wait for them to get back to me.
That plat, the due process, that plat will probably, when it's all cut and dried, come to the next commission meeting for approval by planning and zoning. Yes?
When
No?
it's completed, I mean, I still don't, I have to talk to Skip, because my understanding is he does not want this part of it to belong to his nephew. This is all done for the purpose of making that road easier or whatever. He's gonna have to get that straightened out with Rose, who's ever doing this plat for him. And until that's completely straightened out, I don't think that planning and zoning should even accept the plat.
The actual road that when it gets constructed is gonna be right down the center of that section line, right?
The center of the road would be in theory, the center of the road will be
The section line.
the section lane, center of the section lane. And if we have to expand, expand the construction impact by going on private property, then it's a temporary easement form. It's either temporary or permanent. If the landowner is willing to provide it at no cost, then it's temporary. If the landowner wants to get paid for it, then it's permanent. So the areas of impact, say we have to go wide to get the source of borrowed dirt for the construction. If he wants to get paid for it, then the impact outside of public right of way would be an expense to us to do. But then by virtue of that, now it's county right of way and not.
Would it not make more sense for us if the section line is still there, not been vacated, to agree just to build to our part of the road thing in the section line, and when it has to veer off, then it's private, let them do their own thing? I don't.
You're kind of putting me on the spot, but
That's why you're paying the big bucks.
A situation like that is that there's a clear need to make sure we stay away from the Inwood Creek. We want to be in the right of way, but we're going to have to go on private. And the bottom line is that there's some negotiation factors that if we go wide and there isn't a willingness to provide a realignment onto private property, then the project probably wouldn't go.
With the cold gravel thing.
Yep. And that's why I was gonna show Scott that just as the plat at this point should probably just come straight across to the section line. And that's, if I'm forced to make any comments regarding that to the firm doing the plat, that's the stand I would take, so. Can you?
Any possibility of coming in from the other direction?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be easier? When you don't have to go across and around that creek?
I think you're asking the wrong person.
How can I answer that? You know, like,
Is that too simple, or?
That wasn't the request.
that would be a longer segment, I believe, of county construction if you choose to construct it.
Yeah, it might be longer initially, but in the long run, dealing with a creek going across the roads and stuff.
Keep in mind now that we're working, that's why we're working in the section lane.
Yeah. So
Anything that occurs outside of the section line
I
is
was trying to
private.
figure out where we're actually at up there.
But Kevin, we're not doing all that. We're doing X amount. So that creek and all that is not gonna involve the county.
The creek crossing for the development.
Yeah, but we're not, to cross that creek and everything has nothing to do with us.
He's gonna be constructing a private roadway off of public right of way.
Anything involved in that creek has nothing to do with Walworth County. Correct, Gary?
Yes, preliminary conversation is that we provide.
Yeah, so somewhere up right about in here is the 1,700 feet, is that what you're saying?
Real close.
Oh, yes, somewhere in that vicinity.
From that line across, from there on, they're gonna do their own thing.
Right.
Yep. And in my mind, it's a road construction project starting at the intersection south there. 1,700 feet of section line with provisions where we go outside to get around the creek. That's a permanent easement thing. And we can only deal with public right-of-way stuff. I certainly don't want to get involved in private roadway construction. Is there a chance to speed this thing up? I don't know if I should even ask this. Can you consult with their attorney?
Sure.
And what Deb and I are both looking for is some legal review thing that the right-of-way does exist.
Because right now, and I've been in and out, so right now, Deb, though, we're for sure that there was a section line road up until 1963. you verified up through that time, right?
No. I started, because he at first thought it would have been closed in the 50s, so I'm up through like 48 to 62.
Well, so we have quite a bit to determine it. Yeah, just give me their attorney's name and we'll make a phone call and go from there.
Here's my suggestion, looking at everything up there, it'd be shorter than 1,700 feet coming in from the north.
It's 2 miles from the Hiddenwood Road north to the road that Skip uses to get in.
Here's
There's
Skip's
2 miles
place
in
right
there.
here.
According to that
Right
map,
here.
there's a road
And
coming in
that's
from the north, right by Skip's place.
It ends at Skip's, that's where the maintenance ends. And you're,
Oh, that shows it going all the way down to the section line.
well, it's kind of dotted, so I'm not
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
I haven't been up there to see, but I guess
You know, it goes right
just
to
looking
the-
at the
Right, yeah.
river
Right to
or
the-
the creek going through there, it'd be easier coming in from that way, you don't have to deal with it. Just my thought, but I'm not the one building the house, so.
the agenda was follow-up conversation, I think we've had it.
Okay, sounds good.
Request permission to authorize advertising for gravel crushing, with a bid opening proposed to be March 2nd of 2021. And it looks like, where I'm at is 55,000 ton in 2 locations. In the event, one of the locations is the gravel pit in Lawrence is by Glenham. If we can, half of 55 is 27.50. If there's still material left after 27,500, I'm going to get every bit so we can close that thing out and reclaim it. And so just information for you guys. The other site being proposed is for Skip Rao up there, like we talked about. He wants us to mine on his property. The dialogue with this other project, nothing's gonna sway from that in the event that we back away from our involvement, is what I'm hearing, so. 2 sites proposed, you guys have to authorize me to crush.
Is that $1.40?
$1.40 a cubic yard. We have no bid option with Skip yet, but on the technical side, the offer would be $1 a ton, or compared to $1.40 a cubic yard, which is constant throughout the county. There's a likelihood that if this project goes through, that there won't be any royalty payments based on what I explained to you before. He offered the material at no royalties for the participation in this road project, and I'll make sure that's on paper before it happens, so.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to authorize the advertising for gravel crushing in the 2 sites proposed.
Moved by Commissioner Hogard, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Moore, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Next item is consider motion to modify the rates for permits to occupy right of way. We discussed this last meeting. A clarification, the original permits are 200, as they stand today, it's $250 for gravel and it's $500 for asphalt. You would be modifying our permit to occupy form to include filing fees, which is $30, so that would change 250 to 280 and 500 to 530. All but the filing fee would be reimbursed after a 5-year period.
I'll make a motion to modify the rates for permits to occupy from $250 to $280 on gravel and $500 to $530 on asphalt.
Moved by Commissioner Hogard, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Next item is, formal authorization to pursue a grant application through South Dakota DOT, planning and research program for a master transportation plan in Walworth County. Just need to, just go through it real quickly. It's pencil, it's a drought. I checked the major street plan. I checked transportation revenue. I checked long-range 20-year transportation plan, roadway standards development, management system development, and transportation-related zoning and planning. Do you feel any other one should be considered?
No.
And you can read through it, the backside of page 1, study intention. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Line 2, foundation study to aid in determining improvements. There was correspondence that the foundation study expenses could be in the tune of $1,000 a mile. We have 59 miles of asphalt. I know some of the asphalt roads have a suitable base. And in lieu of that statement, on the 3rd page, the amount of local funding available, I put in 30,000. Who's fast at math? 20%. If this is approved, 80% DOT, 20% local. The 30,000 at 20% would be $150,000 of project cost in putting this together. Right? Some of the contacts I made was that if I determine a foundation study that I might have to allocate more than 30,000, I need some assistance, so.
Bottom line is what my motion is to accept submitting the grant. We don't have to accept the grant, we'll see what the terms are at the time, but at least we need to get it submitted.
Submitted as drafted?
As is, yeah.
Okay.
And you moved, Rick?
I did.
Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Moore, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Consider motion to list used culverts, bridge planks, scrap iron as surplus property for direct sale.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Commissioner Schilling, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kane. Any further discussion?
I
Hearing
just got a
none.
question though.
Oh.
What, when you do that, are you just gonna put something in the paper or something, or how do you, I mean, so people know, that's the only thing I'm asking about.
The reason why it's on is that in my interpretation, the program already exists in the past. In my opinion, that we reinstate the program on an annual basis to meet regulatory
Requirements.
Yeah, like legislative audit stuff.
Yeah, because we already did the pricing on the bridge plank.
Yes, and your question was what?
Just, what are you gonna do when you gonna put something in the paper that we got salvage culverts for sale or for bid, or, I'm just asking that. Or how,
Procedurally, what we have to do, the way I read through the bid laws, is we have to declare it surplus, and then we've got to appoint 3 appraisers, and anything that's appraised for less than $500, he can sell either privately, publicly, however the heck he wants to sell it if we give him a motion. If it's over 500, then we've got to go through the auction. May not be the way you've been doing it, but that's the way I read the law.
Yeah, I'm all about doing what we have to do, so.
Any further discussion?
You might, is the appointment by the board of the appraisers, or?
I'll just make a motion like we did before and have authorize Becky to pick 3 appraisers and just like we did on the grader.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion, or those opposed? Motion carried.
I'll move that we authorize the auditor to retain 3 residential landowners to appraise those surplus properties.
Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Schilling. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll move that we authorize the highway superintendent to sell at private or public sale without notice any of those surplus items that are appraised for less than $500.
Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hogard. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I handed out the Walworth County Highway Department annual report, it's been circulated.
Right here, Rick.
If at any time, specifically the highway department appointments, but at any time, the board's invited if you want specific details on what maintenance activity was done on a specific road. It's in the computer. If we was to print out all of the documents in the computer on an annual basis, it would be like this. A lot of good information in there. Don't hold me to the numbers, but I think we hauled 22,000 tons of gravel this year, and that included contractor assistance. If there's 2,080 working hours in a fiscal year as a basis of reviewing, one of them trucks had like 1,900 hours of use on it in the computer, so that's an indicator that we ran the crap out of that stuff, so. All information, public information, anybody looking for, it even breaks down that jurisdictional thing in Woodbridge, that's individual, 3rd Avenue West, total expenditures on that stuff, so it's all broken down, so. And I asked you to put that resolution thing on the agenda today. That's a resolution that establishes weight limits for fiscal year 21. And also incorporated in it is a request from South Dakota Highway Patrol to have the ability to come into the county to do enforcement. You're probably gonna have to read that.
Rick is gonna read it for us, it looks like.
Oh, no, I was just reading it quietly. You knew
Have
way
Jamie
better.
read it. I'm not very good at reading. I didn't take that up in school.
Resolution Walworth County 2021-06, resolution to set overweight limits. Whereas the ultimate responsibility for the county roads in Walworth County rests with the Walworth County Commission, and whereas the Walworth County Commission has appointed the highway superintendent as the proper highway authority responsible for the care and maintenance of all Walworth County roads, and whereas to preserve the roads in Walworth County during all seasons of the year, weight restrictions must be imposed and enforced, and whereas to preserve the roads in Walworth County during the spring season, weight restrictions and/or reduced speeds must be imposed, and whereas it would be beneficial to Walworth County to seek and obtain the assistance of the South Dakota Highway Patrol in enforcing load restrictions on all Walworth County roads. Now therefore be it resolved that the Walworth County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes Walworth County Highway Superintendent to impose consistent with the recommendations of the South Dakota Department of Transportation and the South Dakota Highway Patrol weight restrictions for overall vehicle weight and/or weight restrictions per axle during all seasons of the year, and to also include the reduced weight limits due to the thawing and excessive moisture during the spring season. In so resolving, the Commission directs the Highway Superintendent to post notice of weight restrictions as required by law. Be it further resolved that the Walworth County Board of Commissioners requests assistance from the South Dakota Highway Patrol in the enforcement of weight restrictions in Walworth County, and authorizes the Walworth County Highway Superintendent to work in conjunction with the South Dakota Highway Patrol to reduce damage to the roads in Walworth County due to overweight vehicles. Dated this second day of February 2021 at Selby, South Dakota. There's a signature blank for the Walworth County Commission Chairperson, and also to attest by the Walworth County Auditor.
Move to approve. Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Schilling. Is this just on paved roads or gravel roads too?
We have no weight limits unless you guys choose to put them on gravel roads, that's just asphalt.
That's just asphalt. Commissioner Hogard.
There's nothing that says what the start date is on this. Do you have a
By-
start date?
By law, it's February 19th, of February 15th, and not to exceed April 30th. The expiration date is optional. If we determine that the roads are still vulnerable, you can extend that April 30th date for a period of time. By
That would,
resolution.
we'd have to come back to.
Yes.
Okay, so this is gonna go into effect here, February 15th?
No. At our discretion.
You haven't determined when you're going to.
No.
Right, that's what I was getting at. This is not actually setting a date yet
No.
for when you start.
We're dry. We're going into the spring reasonably in good condition. They're definitely not gonna be on the 15th.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
In closing, Mr. Chairman, you have original documents to game fish and parks agreements, and you have a resolution. I'd like to have them signed and attested to so I can follow through with returning the documents, so.
Becky's got to sign them.
And one kind of informal question. There was an email came in from you at 4 o'clock this morning. Were you really awake at 4 o'clock this morning?
I do my best work between midnight and 4.
You're only about 2 or 3 meetings into this. Don't burn yourself out, buddy.
I don't have any hair to lose.
Thank you, Gary. Go back up to number 18, consider a motion to adopt resolution 2021-05, County Rangeland Fire Protection Agreement.
Got it.
Resolution 2021-05 County Rangeland Fire Protection Agreement. Be it hereby resolved that the list of individuals set forth below are hereby authorized to request rangeland fire assistance on behalf of the County of Walworth as specified in SDCL 41-20A-11. The authority to request assistance is as provided shall continue in full force and effect until terminated or modified by resolution by the County of Walworth County Board of Commissioners. Kurt Rostron, Selby Fire Chief, Kevin Holgard Commissioner, Jeff Jensen, County EM. Be it hereby resolved that Kurt Rostron, Selby Fire Chief, is appointed County Rural Fire Coordinator for Walworth County. The County Rural Fire Coordinator is hereby authorized to act as a single point contact on behalf of the Walworth County in dealing with administrative matters such as burn bans, billings, or questions about this rangeland fire agreement specific to the county. This authority shall continue in full force and effect until terminated or modified by resolution of the County of Walworth adopted the second day of February 2021. I would entertain a motion to adopt that. Oh, February 2nd of 2021.
Also move.
Moved by Commissioner Moore, is there a second?
I'll abstain being my name is on there.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Schoen, is there any further discussion?
I got questions.
Scott?
So solely then, what you're saying then is Kurt Rostron's gonna determine a burn ban, not the commission?
Well, that's what this says, yeah. Didn't we give him authority to do that before? 3 or 4 years ago, and then there was him and Shannon, and then there was some Becky.
Yeah, I believe you guys, were still able to do it yourselves, but they could also request that it be done as they see a need at that time.
That could be as simple as just giving recommendations. I mean, even if I came in and tell you guys, you know, it's not looking good, we probably ought to be doing something proactive. Just giving you guys the insight.
I think the board is the one who has to do it, I believe.
What does the resolution say, Jim?
It looks like Kurt Rostron.
And you know, with its administrative matters such as burn bans, that really doesn't say he has the authority to.
It just says, in
Put it
dealing
in.
with administrative matters such as burn bans, billing, I still think that the commission has to
I
declare
think that.
I don't think this gives him the, at least just from my quick reading, he's the rural fire coordinator, and it just says that he's the single point of contact, which is what we want, on behalf of Walworth County in dealing with administrative matters such as burn bans, billing, etc. But I still think that, I don't think it's giving him the ability to put, but that's just my quick reading, gives him the ability to declare burn
That
ban.
would be more like giving him authority to give someone, like we did in Mrs. Steckelmeyer, to burn some weeds or something, on a special occasion or something, wouldn't it?
I read this, and I guess so Scott, I read this as he's got the authority to do it. Doesn't mean that the county, doesn't mean we don't. You're just authorizing him to make decisions.
Here's the burn ban resolution, I don't know if that'll help.
I mean, to me, I guess, I think we've always voted on it. I mean, and I wholeheartedly believe that's how it should be. think it's a commission now, whether or not, just like Jeff said, you bring it to us. I agree, that's fine, but let's not look at it way wrong, because we all don't always agree on it, so. If some of us see that it should be a burn ban put on, and some don't, but I think it should be whoever these guys are, women here, whoever they are sitting at this table. I believe wholeheartedly that them are the ones that should do it, but that's just me.
You two are the attorney. The way I read it, that we would still put it on, he would.
It's very vague, let's put it that way.
What's that?
It's not clear cut on what,
I mean,
if we're giving them that authority or not.
I don't wanna sit and take an hour on this, but I'm just going by what it reads to me. I just finished Selby High, that's all. They wanted me gone.
What does the board want to do?
The second sentence up on top says the authority to request assistance as provided. So, I mean, are we just asking Kurt his assistance?
Well, I guess the only thing, I'm just looking at just how the wording is there on that next row, and
Yeah.
one name there, to me, that's telling me that that's the person. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
But then,
As I said,
even that
graduate.
second paragraph up there, it says, until terminated or modified by resolution by the county Walworth Board of Commissioners. So
Yeah.
we would still have to have a resolution to have a burn ban. And that's gotta be by the commission.
I think we got two different resolutions here, though. That first part deals with these three people have a request, should do it, ask for assistance. And then the other one talks about who's authorized to deal with administrative issues such as burn bans.
Administrative, wouldn't that be, we would put it on and he would administer it? If-
Actually, I guess that's,
Is a, I don't know what the statute says about.
actually, that would be more for if there's a big fire, you know, when we have to get the state involved in it, as far as coordinating with the state, being he's a Warhawk manager and does a lot of this, and like with Jeff as an emergency manager, they can coordinate for the county through the state. And because then you set up all these deals, and you have the billing that goes out and everything else, so that's where like Jeff and myself and Kurt would be involved with that, as far as the billing and requesting assistance from the state. That's what the rangeland fire part of this is.
Yeah.
It'd be like wildland 1 and wildland 2 fires that were dealing
Pretty
with.
generalized.
It
Very.
still looks to me like we would be the one to impose a burn ban or pass a resolution, and they would,
Right.
How soon does that need to be approved?
They want it as soon as possible.
Because you could amend it to say that, and another paragraph, just say, be it resolved that any burn ban must be declared by the county commissioners. Wouldn't that clarify it in the resolution?
Clarify, is there a statute that says a burn ban has to be determined by resolution? I mean, it's a legislative action if it's a law, if it's a resolution, it becomes law, it's not administrative. But does the law say we have to do it that way?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
If it does, then I don't think this is a problem, because it says that he deals with the administrative stuff. But if we don't have to pass a resolution to do a burn ban, then it's administrative and he has the authority. I guess that's the question I don't know the answer.
Haven't we, in the past, during emergencies and stuff, put on a burn ban without having a resolution?
We voted on it, I mean, we always just vote on it.
As commissioners, we voted on
Right.
it to put it in, So technically, a motion would be a resolution.
Yeah.
We've never done it any other way that I can recall. We've always done it that way.
As long as we make a motion,
Yeah, I agree with Scott. I think this board has to have the authority to do
I
that.
do too. Now, whether or not to make it just simple is to take that sentence out of there. But just take the burn ban out of there.
I think the commissioner called special meetings once
Yep.
in a while to,
Well, I'm not saying we didn't do that.
no, I mean, but that's always, the commission always has
I think the
done
burn
that.
ban's always been done by resolution by the
Yeah.
county commissioner.
I believe this is exactly the same resolution that was in place last year, so whatever happened through 2020, I think things would operate exactly the same as they did in 2020 for 2021.
It's the same resolution that says it
Burn ban wasn't there.
is in effect until terminated or modified. So then would the, Becky,
In the law, it states to prohibit or restrict open burning after consultation with local fire officials and law enforcement officials in order to protect the public health and safety, is what the commissioners, general powers of the commissioners. That's what the law states. So you are consulting with the fire chief before putting it on anyways. So that could probably stay in there. Because it says that you guys have the power to do so after consulting with local fire officials and law enforcement officials.
We have the power to veto it. They have the power to enact it. That's how you read that?
No,
Kind of sounds like that we have the authority to declare it once other individuals have requested it,
So this
or we
is
make that decision.
general powers of county commissioners, and it's the bottom one here, number 18.
Wow, I didn't know it was gonna.
So that makes sense with that.
one simple little question.
To the extent state law says we have, as the Board of County Commissioners, have the ability to enact burn bans. Doesn't say that we can delegate it. This talks about doing the administrative actions with respect to burn bans, which we have to enact legislative. So I think we're all right because it says it restricts it to administrative acts pertaining to things like.
I would
we have
agree.
to enact. So I think we're okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
And then, so for clarification, any burn ban would have to be declared by the county commission,
That's the way I read it.
for Scott's input, yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Number 19,
It's a good question also.
Okay, well, kind of hit these, Deb and I have been emailing back and forth, you guys probably see some of them. Number 19 deals with the motion made on November 24, 2020 regarding paid holidays. There's a motion to add optional, the word optional, pertaining to the non-working holidays declared by the President of the U.S. or the Governor of South Dakota. That passed, but I'm gonna make a motion to rescind that change because state law says that the holidays include all other days proclaimed as legal holidays by the President and the Governor, so we can't change the state law, so I'll make a motion to rescind that prior motion and go back to the original policy.
we're moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
And incidentally, that's 7.12.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Moore, any further discussion? Oh, Scott?
Well, then, if that, you're basically saying that that's a law.
Yep, it is.
Well, then how does other counties do it? They just break the law?
They violate the law. If they're doing something different than the state law, then they're violating it.
I think there's a copy of the law attached to what I,
Yeah, Becky's running. Oh, then there's counties real close by that are doing it then.
Yeah, well, the state law talks about all the other ones, commonly known as Christmas Day, and then it says, and every day appointed by the President of the United States or by the Governor of this state for A public fast, Thanksgiving, or holiday shall be observed in this state as a legal holiday. That's the state law.
Rick, I think the reason that we did this in the past was there was days that all of a sudden the governor will just say, okay, you get 2 days off here instead of 1 day off. So she's giving them an extra day off for some day. We was saying, well, God, now we're down to working 1 day a week or 2 days a week. But it was to give us the option to follow her on these other days, not like Labor Day or any of these other ones. There was days that all of a sudden it would be where out of the blue there'd be a day off that was enacted by the governor.
Correct.
So that's why we wanted just to have that option to say on these days that doesn't fall under this list. If the governor declares that the state is not working this day, why can't we as a county still work that day? It wasn't to say that we're not gonna abide by this list of holidays. It was these special days that got brought up, and all of a sudden, now we don't have anybody working for 3 days a week.
I agree with the concept, but that needs to be dealt with in here, not here, because the South Dakota Codified Law 1-5-1 enumerates the legal holidays, and that
Okay,
includes
but that's
all
legal
of-
holiday, that wasn't another holiday that she just gave, not necessarily a holiday, an extra day off here, an extra day off here.
If it's not
To the
declared to be a
ones-
legal holiday, then we don't have to deal with it. If she declares it to be a legal holiday, it's a legal holiday here too.
That's what we was coming up with, and they said, well, we have to abide by whatever the state is doing. That's where it all came up with. So that's why we wanted to put it in here, that give us the option. We don't necessarily, for these non-legal holidays, just because the state is getting an extra day off because, I don't know, she feels like giving them an extra day off, do we necessarily have to do it up here?
Based upon, if the governor says this extra day is a holiday, then we do.
Not declaring it a holiday, she's just saying they don't have to work in Pierre.
I think she always declares them as a holiday. I kind of agree with Mr. Kane.
It says every day appointed by the president or by the governor.
A prime example is the day after Thanksgiving. She declares that as a holiday, and we're required to give that under statute.
Well, there was other days in there that she was giving out too, that's why
I think we still have to observe what she declares.
One of the ones
But
that.
she didn't actually declare it a holiday.
I think she declares them as an official holiday. That's how she gives the state employees
We're
off.
not working this day.
I don't think she says we're not working. I think she declares it a holiday, but we can,
One of the first times that it came up is, like, ever since I've been here, we've always had Good Friday off. And then when Dugard was still governor, he declared that Easter Monday was also a holiday. And then I think in that same year, the way Christmas fell, he declared an extra day at Christmas time because of how it fell. I think that's how that started, and she's just continued it.
It doesn't say declared, it says appointed by the president or by the governor. So I think you look at what's the intent. Is she saying this is a holiday? Then it's a holiday. We have to live with it, or else change the law here.
That's why we put it in there, because all of a sudden, for 3 weeks in a row, it was getting
Yeah, I don't
2 days a week off, and we wasn't getting anything done.
Yeah, I don't object to the concept, Kevin. I just say that we can't change state law here, and that's what we were trying to do.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried.
Did Moore second that motion?
Yes.
The next one we got pertains to policy number 6.7.1. That deals with the travel.
I think that's on the last.
Had, at the December 15, 2020 meeting, had things changed to provide that the county would reimburse employees for reasonable job-related travel expenses, and travel expenses and per diem rates will only be reimbursed when it requires an overnight stay. I don't have a problem with the concept. Unfortunately, there's a South Dakota law that does require that law enforcement be reimbursed for those expenses when they leave the county. So I would make a motion to rescind the change that was done on December 15, 2020. And if that passes, then I'll make a motion to revise it so it stays the same except for law enforcement personnel would be entitled to those travel and per diem rates if they leave the county to comply with the state law on that.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any further discussion?
I got something.
Kevin?
What determines if it's a law enforcement officer? Doesn't law enforcement officer have to have arresting capabilities?
That would be my opinion. When you look at
These transport officers are not, they do not have arresting capabilities. So they do not qualify for law enforcement personnel. So we, just like we would not classify them as law enforcement because they do not have arresting authority.
I think when I read that, it said, or anyone working under the direction of the sheriff's office.
Then the secretary could run to Campbell County and have lunch. She works under the sheriff.
Not if she hasn't got a job to do.
So she's gotta go pick up a piece of paper in Campbell County. She happens to be gone over lunch hour. We have to pay her lunch to go up to Campbell County and pick up a piece of paper because she's gone over lunch hour. Jamie, what's your opinion on law enforcement officers?
I haven't looked at any of this information, so I don't have an opinion without looking at it.
Truthfully, I think you're right, Kevin. I mean, I've read it. That's how I read it.
Law enforcement is classified as having arresting powers.
Jim.
Becky?
I don't believe the chair can second a motion.
Oh, then we got back up before we have any discussion. Is there a second to Mr. Kane's motion?
Second it, so we can continue.
Second by Commissioner Moore, now more discussion.
Have you got any information, more information on that?
I don't, I got, on this particular thing, I'm not sure what's in the law figures.
I thought when I read it, I understood it to say anyone employed by the sheriff's department. But I don't have that
That's not what it
in front of me.
What's the law? Anybody have that?
I think what the easiest way would be is we put a definition in our employee handbook of what law enforcement is. We make that determination and then apply it to our employee handbook. Would be the easiest way.
If it's in state statute, what the definition of law enforcement is, then are we breaking the law?
It depends upon what chapter you're referring to when there's a definition with regard to law enforcement. Just like they, for in retirement purposes, they're classified under the B side under law enforcement. So I think we should, my recommendation would be is we define what's considered law enforcement if we don't have something from any of the state statutes which would apply to this exact same issue or the per diem. That's how I would look at it.
But even getting back to that, this is why they was hired, is to transport, this is their job. They know that their job is to go drive somebody somewhere. They know that. So why are they getting an extra benefit because they're accepting a job that they have to drive out of the county? That's what I don't understand. This is part of their job. They accept it, but now there's a big deal. In 1 month, I know that before this came up, there was over just about $500 in meals. And I'm not opposed to giving county employees meals, but if we're gonna do it, let's give meal to every county employee. That's part of their job. That's where I'm standing at, is if we're gonna be fair about it, let's be fair to everybody and let's pay meals for everybody. But this is their job and they know what their job is to drive. And they're gonna be driving out of the county.
They don't know what time they're leaving. They've got 20
Yes, they
minutes.
do. If they're on call, they know what time, they get called up and say, hey, okay, you're gonna be leaving in 2 hours to go somewhere.
When they get the call, they gotta be there to pick that person up in 20 minutes, I'm told.
Well,
Is what they're required, to be there in 20 minutes, so it's a little different than someone working in this building or in the highway department that knows they're gonna go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're gonna be done at 5. These guys have got no idea what time they're gonna leave or when they're gonna be back.
but they're not classified as law enforcement either.
I have a question. Becky, let's say you send one of your girls to Pier for a meeting at 10 o'clock and they come back at 4. Do they get a noon meal because they're out of the county?
They always have before.
That's no different. They're not law enforcement.
I guarantee you, I've attended meetings in other counties all the time and I don't get a meal, or I guess I never thought about putting in for a meal.
We don't automatically get it, you have to put in a voucher for it if you want to collect.
Well, they was automatically getting it, and that's why this whole thing got brought up.
And then we got there were, I think you saw that.
Because we don't get the vouchers every month for all the meals for everybody.
They were
It goes
sent them
into their paychecks, and we don't do that every month. We don't sign paychecks every month either. So when we're signing paychecks, we don't know how many meals are in there.
That's
So I
not
don't think
included in
I-
their paycheck, is it, Becky?
No,
They get paid their meals on their paycheck unless it's an overnight stay.
But they have to have a voucher first, right?
Rick's got a stack of them sitting in front of him,
Yeah.
the meal vouchers that have been submitted that haven't been paid yet.
and then we have limits on what you can have for each meal. So, I can't remember exactly what. the
6, 10, and 15, I think, or 6, 11, and 15.
Are we ready for a vote?
I guess fair is fair. I mean, that's how I look at it. I mean, they knew it going in, exactly what their job was, no matter how you look at it. No matter how you look at that.
When I go out planting, I guarantee I pack a lunch.
That's a little different, because you know when you're gonna go. You don't get called at 2 in the morning and say you're going to Sisseton.
But I know that I'm not gonna be at a restaurant either, so I pack a lunch the night before.
Can they eat in front of a prisoner?
Not while they're driving.
But they can't stop either with a prisoner in there. I mean, you know, they can't stop and
That's why
eat.
Are you still looking, Rick?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can find a definition of law enforcement that would that be applicable with. It's hard to do with my phone. I won't be able to get her done.
I know I've seen it in there that the law enforcement has arresting authority.
And when you look at the Fair Labor Law Act, you try to determine the same thing. Arresting authority is an incident of that. You determine law enforcement as to whether you qualify for overtime and you don't. You know, to determine which part of the sheriff's department you have to pay overtime to. But I don't know if that's applies to this particular statute that talks about reimbursement for those expenses if they leave the county.
We just will, we'll go by roll call. Commissioner Hogard,
So do your motion again
The
to,
motion was to rescind the prior changes that occurred on 12/15/20 pertaining to travel reimbursement.
okay, my response is no, because they are not considered law enforcement, according to the state law.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes, because they travel under the direction of the sheriff's office.
Commissioner Schilling, Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passed.
I did receive clarification, you can second a motion if you hand the meeting over to the vice.
Okay.
I would make a motion to amend policy number 6.7.1 to read as follows. It is the policy of the county that employees be reimbursed for necessary and reasonable job-related travel expenses based upon the adopted travel expense and per diem rates. Travel expenses and per diem rates will be reimbursed to employees when the job requires an overnight stay, except for law enforcement personnel who shall by state law be entitled to travel expenses and per diem rates when their job duties require they leave the county.
You move,
I made that motion to adopt that.
moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Moore, is there Is there any further discussion?
Again, I would just restate that they do not qualify to be classified as law enforcement.
But this, if they don't, then they don't get the meal. So that would come to a legal opinion from our state's attorney as to whether the transport people are law enforcement or not. Our sheriff is, without a doubt, our deputies are, without a doubt.
Doesn't this just say, I don't think it is necessarily says they have to be law enforcement. They are personnel of law enforcement, and this says law enforcement personnel.
Which means that they would technically have arresting authority, and they do not have arresting authority, so they are not considered law enforcement personnel, according to state statute.
I think that's something our state's attorney may have to.
The secretary is law enforcement personnel.
They do not have arresting authority.
That has nothing to do with personnel.
If we change the word personnel to
Employee?
officer,
When an officer, well,
we could,
They're transport
Because-
officers.
transport officers, they're not law enforcement officers.
and it comes down to a legal definition that you'd have to make a determination on.
My recommendation would be is, we should probably put what a definition of is in our employee handbook. That way, we already have it right in the employee handbook. This is the definition of law enforcement for the purposes of this employee handbook. Or this is the definition of Walworth County Sheriff's employees is defined, and then that way, our employee handbook would then reflect what our intentions are. Does that kind of make sense?
It does to me. I guess that would eliminate the issue that you know, the semantic issue that we're dealing with.
Because we can make a definition of what we want to make the definition as. That way.
To the extent it complies with that
Correct.
statute.
Correct.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion?
So are we gonna are we gonna vote on this and then find out that, according to state law, that people are not law enforcement until we get it changed?
Yeah, to me that, I think we probably need to do that step before. I'll make a motion to rescind my prior motion. And we can
Maybe we should have done that before the last
I'll second.
motion too, so.
Okay,
Because
that
technically, right
motion's
now,
been
we'd be in the
rescinded?
same boat as the last one. Until we get it changed, and then we can redo it.
The last one's already been passed and voted on. I think the easiest thing would be is to put on our next agenda the addition to the employee handbook, what the definition is with regard to our employee handbook, as long as it doesn't violate any state statute, for inclusion into the particular per diem and other benefits, who we intend to have that fall under. And just because we passed it, we can always define what it is at the next meeting. I don't think there's a need to.
You're saying adopt what I have now and then the next meeting just add to the following plans.
We already have one that's been adopted, so we would define that at the next meeting. Because your first motion on the.
Rescinded the old one.
Correct. So that's already been done. So the only thing that we need to act on then is you've withdrawn a motion, and so therefore, we can provide the definition next meeting and vote on the definition to add to the employee handbook, and then vote on your motion that you just withdrew.
And then we're back, yeah. Between now and then, we're back to where we were in
Correct.
November.
Correct.
Where are we? Did we get a second to my motion to rescind?
Yes.
Vote on that, and that'll take care of that.
We have to vote on that to rescind it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Comp time, which we discussed in January.
And maybe Jeff can give us a little more on that. It looked to me like 5.3, there were a bunch of comp time things that got approved but didn't get run through the minutes and published.
We had kind of a commission meeting, department head meeting where we discussed, but like the standard workday, so every office said whether they, like the highway department didn't want to have their employees earn comp time, they wanted to have overtime. The sheriff's office wanted overtime. The landfill and the auditor's office said they would prefer overtime than comp time. So that's what each one of these does, like at the highway department, it said, at the very last sentence, it says, this department will not receive compensatory time, but will receive overtime pay with prior authorization. And they all say with prior authorization because that's what it says in our comp time. So that's what those changes are, just so that each department knows whether they're going to get comp time or overtime. And then at the same time, we changed 5.8 to say that instead of 80 hours of comp time, you can only have 40. And then we added the sentence in there that any comp time had to be used in the fiscal year it was earned. If it was not, it would be paid out as overtime at the end of the year. And and all the comp time had to be prior approved. It could result in disciplinary action if it wasn't approved by the commissioners prior to earning it.
Becky?
You could go ahead and put auditor in with the rest of the courthouse.
Okay.
Yeah, just to keep everybody the same.
Okay,
In the
the
building?
landfill, you still want.
Landfill went overtime, yeah.
Okay.
You recommend in order to get your staff gets comp time.
The rest of the building's doing it, so we might as well have that office as well.
First one, I can do that very easily.
So
Jamie?
just for clarification, this was agenda items that were passed but never adopted into the handbook, is that right?
They were discussed and then we said we'll bring them up the next time and then it just never
Okay,
happened.
so then what we'd have to do is put what we specifically want on the
And that's-
agenda for the next meeting to put into the update of the employee handbook.
I don't think so. I think
No,
we
it's on
can
the
do it
agenda
now.
here.
It's on the agenda.
Okay. Then you're all right.
I thought this fall we, like in November, didn't we pass these, but we just didn't get them put into the handbook?
That's where we did.
Did on the 20, yeah, we did, you're right. On the 20, I gotta look here. Was it the 24th? Because what I gave you guys was this whole, I gave you this page, the comp page, and then also the 8.3 where it added the stuff about passwords to the final paycheck. We passed all that, I believe it was on the 17th.
We got it on that one page.
But we passed it and then I never got it put in because then they kind of didn't.
What do you mean it kind of didn't?
I'm trying to think.
Seemed to me like we passed it.
There was a motion, I gotta see what the motion was.
How about if we, just
Jamie?
for clarification and moving the meeting along, how about if we have Deb go back and look at the December meeting, find out what was passed on 11/17/20 or whatever meeting, we can get clarification and address it at the next meeting.
What your note said to me, Deb, was that it passed, but it never made it into the minutes, so
No, that's what it was.
we just need that.
It passed, we passed it on, I can't remember the time, But the motion
Scott has
actually,
11/17 of 2020.
the motion actually passed unanimously. So, and then remember, you said, you asked me about that, and I said, yeah, we passed it. Then I went back in and listened to the video, and then I came with a note and told you what time it said it, and the motion passed unanimously, but it wasn't in those minutes. And I said to you, that needs to be added to those minutes, and you said, well, they're not official minutes yet. But it never got added to the minutes.
I was out with COVID during all of this, so I don't really.
Yeah, and I called you and mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
Didn't I, Becky, and then you sent me a note, yeah, we gotta revise those minutes and,
And when I checked,
So-
it still wasn't on the official posted minutes, so.
But I can't just change it on the minutes. Somebody has to tell me to add it or
Right.
just redo the motion or something.
So I never changed I never actually made the actual changes to the personnel policy because it wasn't actually in the minutes yet.
So how do we fix the minutes, Jamie? Do we just have a motion to adjust the minutes to reflect that motion, or?
Yep,
Okay,
that's what I would do is
Correction
have,
to the minutes.
when we come back and, since we're talking about minutes now, I think you should probably put on the agenda for the next meeting, modification of the November 17th minutes correction, and just put in there, this was not reflected in the previous minutes. You vote on it to put it in the minutes as it was done but not listed, and then modify your official minutes of the November 17th meeting.
on our agenda, it says, consider a motion to reapprove the 8.13, approved on 11/17 and published in the minutes.
We should probably have something specifically worded, what we want to
That's
put in
not
those minutes.
specific enough?
That's your decision to make.
Not mine.
So the whole goal is to make sure we have accurately reflected minutes. That's, if you can, as a group, feel that what you're doing is actively going to be reflected and that we're correcting any errors in the minutes, then I'm in agreement with
I
you.
would say wait until the next meeting so we can spell out, because we have nothing in the minutes anyway. So we spell it out so we can get it put in there.
Okay? Consider a motion to remove 8.5, the rehire policy, for 3 months.
That was just a personnel policy that says if an employee is terminated or voluntarily quits, they can't be rehired for 3 months. Yeah, my thought on that 2.1 is the elected officers have the opportunity to hire who they choose. So we can't stop that because they have the right to hire who they choose. And the other is, we should be able to make that determination depending on the facts. Whether we want to hire somebody we don't, those that we have a choice to make. So I'd make a motion to rescind that policy 8.5.
Remove that from the personnel policy.
Pardon me?
To remove that from the personnel
Correct.
policy.
Moved by Commissioner Kane, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. Is there any further discussion? Scott?
Yes, I really got a problem with that is because, is the reason why that come up, did that happen or something, or,
It did.
and, what, everybody just doesn't read the policy? So I don't believe it should be,
I don't think it was in there. at that
It
time.
wasn't, it happened and then it was put in the policy.
it looks like it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
But did it just happen again?
not that I'm aware of.
yes.
Well, I think it did.
Okay. I'm not,
I
if it
think
did,
that's
I'm not
wrong.
aware of it.
It's wrong that we should be doing something like this into the policy when the act has been done. I mean, this is crazy here. Our policy changes after the fact. I don't care if you're an elected official or who you are. It's in the policy. Abide by the damn thing. That's crazy.
But
We're sitting
elected
here as
officials
commissioner.
are free to hire whom
Okay,
they want
then
to.
the commissioners, the elected officials throw this book away? It's not right. It's in there. I'm sorry if somebody in office hires somebody they shouldn't have, it's in the policy, by God, we should stick to our guns then. It's our job. I don't care how you guys look at it, but it's our damn job.
And the reason it was in there wasn't because of all the insurance nightmares and other paperwork for the auditor's office of trying to get somebody requalified for insurance and
Oh.
everything else and all the other paperwork. But that's why it was put in there in the first place.
Then it looks like to me, and maybe it's exaggerating a little bit, but I don't think so. It looks like me like we're just saying, hell, do what the hell you want to do. Basically, that's what we're saying, guys.
Oh,
If we're letting it happen, and it happened again, just lately,
And I
by
agree.
God,
Everybody says elected officials can do whatever they want, to include breaking laws and stuff, so what's the difference?
Where you
Nope.
said if
Should be in the
they're
policy.
elected officials, should we just throw the book away?
that's what it looks like it's
Here's
happening.
something I'd like to point out to all of you, is that on the Personnel Policy Committee, there is not one single hourly person who this affects the most. There is not one single hourly paid person on that committee. And that's who this whole personnel policy affects the most.
Yeah, but we have no say in what you guys do anyway. You guys make everything and decide everything anyway.
I'm not elected, I don't
No, but you
decide
guys,
nothing.
basically, I've never seen a place that the employees run everything and we have no authorization to make anything.
The command,
Why are we even here? That's what, I don't understand why we're even here.
the department heads did this. I remember this meeting,
Yes, they did.
and by God, now because elected official broke them rules, it's all right? No, it's not, you guys.
That
I
rule
don't
doesn't
care.
apply to the elected officials because they get to choose who they want to hire. We don't have that choice. We can control the number of people, we can control their budget, we can control the rate of pay.
Yeah, we can control their budget too, but they can blow right through the budget too, and they can
That's
do
not what
whatever
the
they
issue
want
we're talking
because
about
it's
here.
an elected,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's-
Because they're an elected official, they can do whatever they want.
Then I guess well, if you guys can sit here and actually think that that's right, that's sad. You know damn good and well it's not right.
You know,
He broke the law, broke that right there, by God, he should be held accountable for it. Whatever the hell happens, there's no way we should allow that. I don't care, you guys.
okay, if it's
That's
wrong or
simple.
right, it's not a matter of wrong or right if it's the law. If you can't stop them from doing it, what are you gonna do?
So
Like
then
I
why
said, we
have,
should just throw that book away,
why
that
have a
handbook away.
handbook?
I
just throw that
didn't
away.
write- I didn't write the law.
Well, then we should throw the damn thing away, because I can't see what good it's doing. We just change it to make it right.
You basically have two classes of employees here. Employees that have department heads that are then elected, and then you also have employees whose department heads are elected. The county commission only has total control over the non-elected hired, like Mr. Kane is saying, is you can control the budgets, you can control certain things, but with an elected official, that's another peer issue. That if you want to change the law, then that's something you would have to change in peer. The employee handbook does, I agree, it applies two ways. To employees of elected officials and to employees of non-elected officials like Deb's office, the highway department, the landfill. That's just the way, I mean, if you want to change that, then I think you have to go to peer.
I mean, we can even adjust the budget and in effect, an elected official can blow through the budget and not have to worry about it. Other than getting a letter from legislative audit once every 2 years.
You department heads did this. It wasn't the commission that did it. It went into the policy, but the department heads agreed to this. So, there's no question who did it.
Oh, I agree with that. I'm not arguing with
Absolutely.
you about that. But again, I think I know why this particular policy came into effect. I had no idea that just recently it had been broken again. Yeah, I'm not thinking, I'm just racking that in my mind, I can't think of it, so, and I don't wanna know, don't tell me. But, yeah, that was passed, for a particular, thing that happened back then. So that's 4 years ago.
We have a motion on the floor, we are not getting very far in a second. We'll go by roll call vote. Commissioner Hobart,
No.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Schilling,
No.
Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passed. Becky,
I think we'll skip that this meeting, unless anybody has any information on that you wanted to point out. I was just gonna see what your guys' thoughts were, but we can always do it the next meeting.
okay, I guess my thought is, if we're gonna do this, we need to do it soon.
Yeah, but we should probably
So,
figure out what the amounts are gonna be, but we have to give them at least a 6-month notice.
yeah, I would say January 1 or whatever.
January would be the best. So I don't know if the people on the landfill board wanna get together and with me and talk about it, or?
I'm not gonna be here.
Remember when you wanted to stop, yeah.
Maybe you and Dwayne and Scott
Okay,
and we'd have time to visit about a little time, a
okay,
little bit sometime, okay? Spring workshop,
Just got an email on that workshop down in Pier that's coming up on March 17 and 18. I don't know anything about it. Anybody been to one? Is it worth going to, or?
What's the date?
March 17th and 18th.
How come they changed it from
I think it's a
Wednesday,
good
Thursday?
one.
I don't know.
Got a lot of money out of that one for the county.
Normally it's
I
on
think it's
Monday,
very
Tuesday.
educational, if you can get away. I think it's very educational.
I do. I'm gonna go.
They have some really good speakers. I would sure plan on going in at this time.
Kevin, Dwayne?
I doubt if I'll go. I don't know why they changed it from a Monday, Tuesday.
Okay,
Okay, it's what, Wednesday, Thursday?
Did you?
Yeah.
You got Rick or Dwayne down?
yep.
Do we need a motion, normally get a motion to approve the payment of the registration fee?
It'll come into the claims the next meeting, and you guys just approve the claims. It'll be one of the claims.
Any old business?
I just have one thing real quick. Gary Byrie and I have been kind of working on a memorandum of understanding with regard to the city of Mobridge and 911 to make sure we're all on the same page. Do you want us to have that on the agenda for next meeting so you can approve that before we ship it over to Mobridge, or do you want to have Mobridge approve it, or how do you want us to address that?
It'd be nice to know what's on it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all.
We should know before we get that far.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any new business?
Did you, set a new board yet?
We met the other day and they appointed Roger Bauman and Dave Ritter to the weed board.
Roger Walker.
Roger Walker, I don't know why I always do that. Roger Walker, thank you, Becky.
And Dave Ritter?
Dave Ritter. Other two more resigned and they've got some prospects for weed supervisor. And it's gonna be hard to replace Dave.
So he quit as a sprayer, but he's on the board.
He volunteered to be on the board. He called me volunteer. Becky,
Most of you know that, I'm gonna do this, but I've been with the county for almost 14 years. I've enjoyed being the auditor and working with the taxpayers of this county. I greatly appreciate everyone's support over the years. I was not looking to leave, however, an opportunity became available to me that I couldn't resist. It's closer to my home and will be a better fit for my family and I. My last day as auditor will be February 19th, and I will be happy to help with the transition. That's it.
I hate to see you go. You've done a tremendous amount of things for this county, and I hate to see you go. I wish you'd reconsider.
Gonna be losing a lot, that's all I can tell you.
We probably need to entertain a motion to advertise for that position.
We'll have to put it on the next meeting, won't we?
Yeah, I'll have my official resignation on the next meeting, so you'll probably have to do it at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely have it as an agenda item to post how you want to do that.
One other new business. Deb gave me this release for the Porline deal. Does that have to be on our
Yeah, but-
Action.
Yeah,
on our agenda, or can we do that?
I thought that was gonna get added this morning.
I don't think we added it.
No, we didn't have, we don't have
No,
one
she
thing.
brought
How's that
it.
gonna mess up your closing?
No, we've already got it indexed against,
Okay, so we'll just put it on next meeting, if that's all right, the satisfaction, if that's not gonna mess up your closing, and we'll just put that on as agenda item for you to vote on next meeting.
Okay,
no, I think you can just sign it. It was already voted on to accept the compromise. That was.
Was it? Okay,
the
so then, yeah, you don't need to have
Next
a
meeting.
approval to sign if it's already been approved.
The payment was made and the satisfaction was
Thanks for
given to the
clarifying that, Mr. Chairman.
Register of Deeds.
if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Hogard,
Second.
second by Commissioner Schilling. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Sorry to hear that, Becky.
There will be some hard shoes to replace, or refill, I should say. Whatever they're proper.
I'm not accepting your resignation.
Did you get the copy of the minutes that I signed? Or do I have them in here?
Well, Marcy always prints copies on heavy paper, and then we sign those after they're in the book.
Oh,
So she'll have heavy paper.